So if you checked out our sniper video yesterday, you've probably wanted to know what is the best weapons that you can pair with your sniper rifles. That's if you're still using them, that is, because snipers are not really all that powerful inside Warzone anymore. If you do enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we try to reach our goal of 50k subscribers. Also click that link in the description down below and subscribe to our second channel. Even if you're not using a sniper rifle, this video could be really helpful to you, especially if you're trying to get a class that has a well-rounded weapon that you can pair with a secondary like Diamates or, for example, the AMP as well. And that way you don't need to use overkill in every single class you have. So now we're going to take a look into the stats and the numbers of all of this. We've got TTKs for chest shots at 300 HP. And of course, we're going to be taking a look at SMGs and ARs. Those are the most versatile categories of weapons, of course. And there's quite a lot of weapons that you can actually use from these categories, in my opinion. But we're going to pick out the best 6, as we always do. We're going to mainly focus around TTK, recoil control, because those are the most important things. And we also want to look at the second damage drop-off when it comes to SMGs, because for close-range TTK, that's really good if you're using it as just an SMG to pair with an AR. But if we're looking for a well-rounded weapon, we can't really choose weapons that have a third damage drop-off because, let's be honest, those TTKs right here are very slow. We need to kind of focus on the second damage drop-off and guns that only have 2 damage drop-off points in the first place. So now let's look at these kind of weapons here. We've got the Cold War PPSH, which I think is an absolutely solid sniper support weapon in my opinion. These TTKs are very consistent. The recoil on the weapon's really low as well. And overall, the iron sights and stuff are clean, but we'll get into that in just a moment with the correct build. The other weapons that we want to point out is the MAC-10 as well. The MAC-10 is very solid. Now, you can use the own gun if you really wanted to as an SMG just to pair it with a sniper. But like I said, if you want those kind of well-rounded weapons, we need to look at the guns that have low recoil and that overall just work well in any circumstance. I think the MP40 is also a pretty solid option with the new barrel attachment we're using, because it doesn't have that third damage drop-off point. And that just makes it way more consistent when you're trying to kill at those longer ranges. And there's a couple of other weapons like the Milano as well. Even though it does have a slow TTK, this gun has pretty much 0 recoil. So that would also work as a really good sniper support because you do get the good movement. Moving on into the AR category now, once again, these guns are pretty solid as sniper supports depending on which ones you pick. The good thing about assault rifles is that they only have 2 damage drop-off points. The first damage drop-off usually extends past farther than most SMGs, so we only need to focus on the first damage range. Most of your gunfights are going to be between 0 and maybe 50 meters anyway, so let's take a look at this. So AS44 is pretty solid, it's one of the fastest killing fully automatic weapons in the game. Only issue is the recoil is quite hard to manage, even if you fully kit it for recoil control. AS-VAL is pretty solid if you're playing solos maybe, but again, when it comes to the mag size and especially with the increased health, the AS-VAL is just not an option at the moment. The Volk actually got a huge buff when it comes to the magazines and the TTK of this weapon overall, and also recoil control. So I think the Volk is pretty much the best sniper support option in the game right now, with the build that we will get on to show you in just a moment, which will give you the super fast TTK that you see on screen just now. The Grav, again, has a bit too much recoil. We've got the FFAR, which I do think is a solid option as well, and the Cooper Carbine, which also kills pretty quick, but also has really low recoil, so overall, it's a solid option too. Starting off at number 6, we have the MP4. Now, the build is slightly different to what we used for the SMG build. Now, like I mentioned in that video, this gun has pretty much no recoil anyway, and using that short barrel means it only has 1 damage drop-off, which is very handy as well, so just keep that in mind when using this gun. Now, one slight change you could make if you want to make this gun a bit more long range, you can use the Mercury silencer instead of the recoil booster. Now, you are making your TTK a little slower than what I showed you earlier on, but if you want to keep the fast TTK, then use the M1 hand stop, lengthened, the fabric grip, which is going to help with the aim down sight sprint to fire, perfectionist, which will help with the recoil control, use the Krosnick folding instead of the remove stock because it will not con the recoil as much, but you still get the movement stats, and then the slate reflector. But overall, this gun is very solid when it comes to sniper supports. At number 5, we have another low recoil option as an SMG. We've got the Milano right here. As we all know, the Milano doesn't kill super quick, but you're pretty much going to be hitting every single shot with this gun. And this is the build I would recommend. So agency suppressor, task force barrel, or you can go for ranger. So if you don't want the extra recoil, then the ranger barrel is probably the best option for you. But the reason I use the task force is because you do get that strafe speed. And when you're using it at close range, you will need the strafe speed to make sure you're dodging those extra bullets. Microflex LED is the best optic in my opinion. The 3x is a bit overkill. especially on an SMG like this. 55 round Stanag mags, which are pretty much the best mags to use. Then for the last attachment, you can choose kind of whatever you want, really. I use the foregrip because I'm using the task force, but if you're using the ranger barrel, you don't really need the foregrip, so you can go for maybe a bruiser grip or a serpent wrap because the recoil won't be as high. So there's a couple of different options you can go for there. You can even go for Tiger Teeth Spotlight if you really want to. But personally, I like the foregrip. I think it helps a little bit with the recoil and it still gives you that strafe speed. Next up, we have the FFAR1. You do need to build this weapon for pretty much max ADS just to make it work, but it still kills super quick and it has a very consistent TTK over different ranges. So I do think it's a very solid option, especially if you're not a huge fan of the SMG options. When it comes to ARs, when it comes to different shot locations, you're likely to get the same TTK over and over again. So you want to use the regular suppressor so you get the faster ADS. You want to use the Raider stock for the faster movement, but you can also use a Tiger Team Spotlight as well. We're using the Bruiser Grip for even faster movement as well. We're using the Serpent Wrap for the faster ADS, and we're using the 38 round mags again for the faster ADS. Now, personally, I would like to go for the 50 round mags, but it cons your ADS a bit too much, especially with this weapon. So 38 rounds need to be more than enough to run the FFAR1, but overall it is a very solid build, especially if you're running solos or duos. Anything above that's probably going to be a bit difficult with this weapon, but at number 3, we probably have what is the most popular sniper support weapon in the game right now, which is the Cooper Carbine. I don't think it's the best, but it's definitely probably the easiest to use, and that's why everyone's using it. So you want to make sure you're using the recoil booster for the faster TTK, Cooper Custom to get the best recoil control, Slate Reflector, remove stock to get the better movement speeds, of course. This gun doesn't really have too much recoil anyway, so after you put that longest barrel on there, you can pretty much build it the rest for movement. Vital is going to help with the TTK, On Hand is going to give you that faster ADS. You can also go for fully loaded as well. Both are good options. Fabric Grip for the better ADS times and better sprint to fire. 60 round mags is the best option, you can't really go for anything else. Lengthened and the hand stop to get a bit more recoil control in the weapon. But overall, this build for the Cooper Carbine is probably like the go-to sniper support build. At number 2, we have probably what is my favourite sniper support weapon in the game right now, which is the Cold War PPSH. This gun is very consistent when it comes to TTKs. The iron sights are clean, so we don't really need to use an optic, although I do see a lot of people using the Microflex. And once again, the build is very similar to the Milano, so we were using the GRU suppressor for the bullet velocity and range. We're using the Task Force barrels so I can still get the strafing speed whilst getting bullet velocity and range. The foregrip, again, to control the recoil a bit. The 71 round drums for the best damage per mag. And then the Serpent Wrap for the better ADS. Now, again, you could build this with the Ranger barrel if you really wanted to, and then remove the foregrip and maybe put on the Microflex LED. That'll also work out really well, but I do still think we need that strafing speed on this weapon. So overall, I would go for the build that I recommended at the start, which is this one right here. Lastly, at number 1, we have probably what is the best sniper support gun in the entire game. The Volk is super low recoil. With this build, it's got no recoil, plus it has one of the fastest TTKs for close range and medium range. And just overall, it's probably going to be the easiest and best sniper support weapon to use, full stop. And I think after the most recent update, they kind of buffed it so that it is a sniper support option. And that is kind of where they went with this weapon. So recoil booster, Crosnick barrel to get the best recoil control, hand stop under barrel to get recoil control as well. The 60 round mags actually give you the fastest TTK, so make sure you go for the 60 round mags. It's the biggest mags and it gives you the fastest TTK. Lengthened, fabric grip for better movement and ADS times. Fleet, again for the better movement and ADS times. On hand for the better ADS time. The Crosnick barrel to get better recoil control. A lot of the other attachments are helping with movement, so we don't really need the stock to help with movement, but if you feel like you can control the recoil, then you can go for the converted stock instead, and then the Slate Reflector, which is my favorite optic to use at the moment. So there we have it. Those are 6 of the best sniper support weapons inside Warzone. I do want to give a quick honorable mention to the MAC-10. The class setup is in the background if you do want to try it out, but this gun only has 2 damage drop-off points, can easily be replaced out with something like the Cold War PPSH. It's just that the TTK isn't as quick, but overall it's got cleaner iron sights, so if you do want to give that a go, feel free to do that as well. But if you enjoyed this video, like I said, subscribe to the channel as we try to goal of 50k subscribers, and thank you very much for watching.